Hell of a thing, exclusive report. According to the report, Israel, the government, targeted safe zones in order to bomb Palestinians. I want you to put up the picture full mass here because the story has some twists and turns and some nuances that must be highlighted for the record. An NBC investigation into 7 deadly airstrikes between January and April found the Palestinians were killed in areas of southern Gaza that the Israeli military had explicitly designated as safe zones. The report notes the attacks took place as Israel's military bombarded Rafah from the air, and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government signaled its intent to launch a full-scale ground invasion on Gaza's southernmost city, which has now swelled to more than 1 million people. Now, Netanyahu has repeatedly promised to invade to ensure the destruction or elimination of Hamas, which has caused growing alarm over the safety of civilians who have taken shelter there. NBC News crews filmed the aftermath of the 6 strikes and 1 strike further north, which was also a humanitarian zone, okay? That was Al-Mawazi, which also was designated safe by Israel. This map you're looking at, shared by IDF spokesman, shows territory civilians should evacuate in the Gaza Strip. Now, naturally, you don't have to be a war expert or a military commander to understand what a safe zone means. And if you're telling people this is a safe zone and you have children and women and elderly people, et cetera, who are being basically guided to these safe zones, but if they're being guided there for the purpose of being bombed, you got to think about how depraved that is, because you're basically rounding people up for mass execution if that's the case, right?
With millions watching and many people benefiting from this program called Indisputable, we just need 1% of the viewers to become a paid member so we can continue to bring this content to you. Now back to the show.
There's more. The NBC crews compiled the GPS coordination or coordinates of each strike, all of which hit an area identified by the Israeli military as an evacuation zone in an online interactive map it published on December 1st. The map has not been updated since, and the Israel Defense Forces told NBC News in a statement Sunday that it did remain accurate, meaning there's no update that you don't know about. The map that you have is the map that's the one. International aid agencies, Gazans have called the map confusing and difficult to read. Regular cell and internet blackouts since the start of the war would also have made it difficult for civilians to access it. So let's put it up. Human Rights Watch Program Director Sari Bashi said in an interview that the incidents highlighted in the investigation are not isolated. She has tracked the humanitarian impact of Israel military offensive in Gaza. She said, quote, people are fleeing to roads that the government told them to use, to places where the Israeli government told them to go. And when they go there, they get killed, end quote. NBC reports that on December 18th, the IDF dropped leaflets identifying Rafah's neighborhood home, and Zuhur neighborhoods, as well as Shabura home at large refugee camp as safe. These places were told to residents, go there. NBC found all 3 locations. All of those locations were hit by airstrikes since then. Pictured here are strikes on the designated safe zones. NBC News found the communities which was designated safe. The Rafah's community was designated safe. It was in a leaflet drop. That's part of how they get propaganda out or information. It was dropped by the IDF on December 18th, and then it was targeted less than 1 month later on January 9th. A little over a month later, February 12th, there's another strike, safe zone. NBC News crew filmed dozens of dead bodies, some women, some children, in the aftermath of one of the strikes. So Israeli officials have repeatedly said Hamas uses hostages and civilians as human shields. This is part of the government narrative. Netanyahu, along with other Israeli officials have also said Israeli forces do their utmost to prevent civilian casualties. Health officials in Gaza say more than 34,000 people have been killed so far in Gaza during the 6-month war, which began after Hamas, October 7th, committed a terrorist attack on Israel and left 1,200 dead and saw over 240 people taken hostage. You see, put it up. You see, 70% of those who are killed, Palestinians who die, are women and children, according to the latest report. NBC News reports areas that senior Israeli officials publicly stated were safe were bombed as well. So it's not only in documentation, it's not only part of the actual protocol that you can find, see, and look at. It's not only part of the literature, it was part of the public narrative. These are the places you can go. Put them up. Okay? On November 4th, Israeli defense minister told a news briefing in Tel Aviv, there will be no attacks in Al-Mawasi, a narrow strip of beachside land in the city of Khan Younis, promising that, quote, anyone will be safe, will be in a safe place in that location. After January 1st, the IDF advised people on X evacuate Al-Mawasi 11 times, but Israeli forces repeatedly launched strikes on the area. January 4th, 14 people died, among them 3 children who perished. When the tent was hit by a strike, Palestinian officials said footage taken by an NBC News crew less than an hour later showed a large crater, just a crater. If Al-Mawasi is not safe, where should we go? No one is protecting us, said Kamal Selah, who witnessed the strike that killed 14 people in total. NBC News sent the IDF the GPS coordinates for the 7 strikes it identified in safe zones. The IDF replied in an email that it was, quote, not aware of any strike at the provided coordinates and times. For March 26th strike on Tel AVIV neighborhood, it did not respond when asked about the 6 additional coordinates. The IDF also blamed Hamas for telling people to ignore its directives to move. It said in the follow-up email that it would, quote, act against Hamas wherever it operates with full commitment to international law while distinguishing between terrorists and civilians. The Human Rights Watch group and leaders said the Palestinians have tried to follow the Israeli instructions. Quote, people evacuate, people use the roads they are told to use. They go to the place they were told to go, and then they get hit by an airstrike or by a ground force invasion. She said, there is nowhere safe in Gaza. Civilians. All right, and I know this is part of the reason why young student leaders of Jewish faith and background, as well as Palestinian faith and background, this is why they are actually working together, because they see some of the insane narrative as well as policy coming from the government of Israel, just like we see insane policy coming from our government right here in America. And there's a distinction between me and what the US military does, just like there's a distinction between an Israeli citizen or a Jewish man or woman and what Netanyahu and the government of Israel does, just like there's a distinction between a Palestinian child and what Hamas did on October 7th. But for some reason, that last distinction is blurred significantly. All right, David, thoughts, brother?
Well, I said right after October 7th that Netanyahu should be gone, he should be out of power. Yeah. The primary responsibility of the Prime Minister of Israel is to protect Jewish people, protect Israelis from the kind of attack that he allowed to happen. So I think it's been a disaster just having Netanyahu in office. And I think we have long gone way past the point at which Netanyahu is protecting Israelis now from the next October 7th because of what he's done in Gaza. That for every person, every family that's got somebody killed, you're going to have family members who are going to think revenge. And I'm gonna avenge the death of my brother, my sister, my parents. And so there's this perpetual cycle that Israel is enabling by having this sometimes indiscriminate bombing. And look, I'll be the first to say that sometimes airstrikes don't go where they're supposed to go, either from Hamas or from Israel. But at this point, it doesn't matter. You're still killing innocent people. And the more innocent people you're killing, the greater the likelihood that the violence is gonna keep going and going and going.
That's right. All war is birthed out of the psychology of humanity. And if you're not dealing with that part of the reason war exists, you will always have it permeate in the soul.